Okay friends, today we do a complete walkthrough of every aquarium that I have running in this house. You're going to see them all in just a minute.
This is Ron from Friday Fish Packs. You're watching Pecktec on YouTube.
Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec, and I'm long overdue for an all aquarium update. Now, people that have been with my channel for years, they know that I don't usually do a lot of these. I do about one every 6 months, and occasionally I'll shoot down an update of maybe a few brands, like if all the Flooville tank updates or a particular tank's update. If you see a tank in this video that you'd like to know even more detail with, I kind of give you an overview of what's going on in all these tanks. But if you want to know a little bit more about any one of these tanks, just let me know in the comments down below. I'll be interested to see what you guys are interested in the most. There are a few of these tanks that have gotten a lot of attention, like the Into the Woods tank and maybe a couple of others, like the large tank downstairs. And then there's a few tanks that I kind of set it up and we just watch it grow for months and months. Alright, so I'm going to switch into narrator mode now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a tour all around my house and see all the tanks. Here we go. So I guess the best place to start is right here at the beginning. And what you're looking at now is a dirted tank. It's my only dirted tank. I tried it once. I've had moderate success with it. I think it's been a pretty good experience, and I wouldn't mind trying it again, maybe doing a couple of things differently. This is a 55-gallon. It's been up for quite a while. It was definitely my show tank for a long time. It's sort of gotten overgrown. It's changed a whole lot. And right now I've got some Val there that seems to be kind of wanting to take over the tank, and I've just kind of let it grow, just because I'd like to transfer it to something else. It's pretty neat. Unfortunately, this tank is going to have to come down. I made a critical mistake with the way my lights were placed on the top, and I've actually melted into the brace a little bit. Anybody that thinks that LED lights don't get hot, there's evidence that that is incorrect. I've had people tell me LED lights don't get hot. Well, no, they do. They'll melt through plastic, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to swap this tank out really soon. Moving on, we've got the Steampunk tank, and this is a tank that was a lot of fun to build. I'm still fascinated by it. I think it's really neat. I've just trimmed out the little chamber in here that holds the plants. These are little wabikusa balls, and I've got some plants growing in there, and that basically filters the water, and it does a really great job of filtering the water out. I've got some peacock gudgeons inside of here, and they are the same fish that Rachel brought to me when I set this up at the Big Fish Deal a couple of years ago. And they're the same fish that were in there. I put them in that tank. I drained the water down. I brought it home. I set it up again with the fish in there. Just left a little bit of water for them, and they're doing great. They're still doing really good. They're actually really large, interesting specimens for peacock gudgeon. And they're one of my favorite fish. They're not shy. They're always out and around. They're really colorful and beautiful, but they're not excessively large fish. Now, as far as the light inside of this tank, it hasn't been great for growing plants. This Anubis doesn't seem to mind too much, and I don't know. I'm getting a little bit bored with it. I think I'd like to empty out the interior or maybe redo it a little bit. I wouldn't mind pulling these peacocks out and putting them in a little bit bigger tank too. I was kind of hoping I could try to breed them in here, but there's just so much of the tank that you can't see. I put some little tubes in there. They like to breed in little tubes, but there's so much of that tank that you can't see that I don't think it's really practical to believe that I could breed them in this tank. Although, it is a lot of fun to look at, and it's great for conversation. Next, we've got the Into the Woods tank, and right away you'll see a big difference in that the hand is gone. I've removed the hand out of here. What had happened is I did a lot of work on this tank, and then suddenly it just got overrun with algae. I had a really huge algae problem. I've been fighting it a number of different ways. I have a serene lighting system on here. I actually pulled it off. I'm going to use it for, I think I'm going to use it for another project that I've got in mind. But, or I may add it back onto here. I've been just trying a number of different things to try and figure out how I can tame that algae down. I had a CO2 that I just reinstalled on this tank and everything, and I've had to basically cut it off. I've added some Amano shrimp. I added a neurite snail. I've added, really watched my food. I've cut the photo period back. It was strange. It just like all of a sudden out of nowhere, I just got this huge algae outbreak, and I've started to pull it back. It's starting to kind of look okay again. Some of the plants are recovering and not totally covered in gook. The hand had gotten just covered in that blackbeard algae and stuff, and I just pulled it out. I got sick of trying to clean it off. I just went ahead and pulled it out and decided to mess with it. I might reintroduce it to another tank down the road, but for now, this is sort of my experiment tank to see if I can bring it back from the brink. This tank here, I kind of just set it up. I mean, we had gotten this tank, and I thought it might be an interesting experiment. Really, what I was thinking is I could take it and sort of part it out, use that tray that's on top, and sort of a mod that I might do. But I thought, why not set it up? A lot of people have bought this kit and have liked it fairly well. So I thought, I'll set it up and try it. And it's been kind of neat. I have not, I really should, I think you're supposed to replace the seeds that are in there with some fresh ones, and I have not done that, and the plants are starting to look a little ratty, but it's a neat little tank, but I will probably end up swapping it out for something else once I find something that fits the space that it's in. Next, we got the Flooville EB, and if you remember, it's basically, I set this up this summer, and it's basically the Speck 3, almost 3 gallons. I think it's like 2.6 gallons or something like that. The growth in this has been really amazing. Like the crypts that are in there have just really gone nuts in there, and the hydrocotyl and all that. Really no dosing in this tank, no CO2. This is all just that light and some good substrate. I'm not even sure if I can't even remember exactly which substrate I used. I'll have to go back and reference the video, because I use different stuff in every time. I think it was aqua soil. Or maybe it was Flooville stratum. I think this one comes with like some Flooville stratum or something. So it's a soil-based substrate. I know that. And the blue shrimp that I put in there are really amazing. I think they're actually starting to procreate. I've seen some tiny ones that are too small to be the ones that I originally put in there. I just throw a tiny little bit of food in there, and I give this thing a water change, 20% water change every 2 weeks, and that's about it for keeping that tank. Now, of course, I've got the Flooville Flex. This is a project that is going to be coming up. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end of the video. Next up, we have the Speck 5-gallon. This was originally set up in a video called Mini Gardens. And I set up these little glass mini gardens that you can't, there's one in there still, but you can't even see it. That's dwarf sag that grew out of the bottom of one of the little planters, and just like has gone all over the tank and just taken over that tank. And but it looks really neat, and it keeps the water super clean. I've got a baby rainbow that I've tried to catch out of there about a dozen times. He runs back in that grass, and I can't get to him. Also living in there are 2 dwarf puffers that started off pretty skinny, but they're doing better and better as time goes on. And they all seem to be kind of a happy, if not sort of odd couple inside. This is my 56-gallon column, and this was one of the older videos I did when I started making, planted tank videos for YouTube. This is one of the older ones, and it is still going. It's got, just some really basic substrate and stuff. It was actually kind of inexpensive to put together. If you look at those rainbows there, those rainbows are babies from the big rainbows downstairs. If you remember about a year ago, I had a little 10-gallon tank going. I'd been kind of pulling out babies, and that's them about a year later. They're starting to color up and looking like nice little mini rainbows, little mini versions of their parents. I've also got, looks like a Pandagara and some other tetras and stuff in there, as well as a couple of endlers, because I've got endlers in just about every tank I've got. There's also a nice little colony of shrimp in here, which I'm kind of surprised I've been able to survive. I ended up accidentally bringing in like 5 or 6, and they're still doing pretty good. Right there at the base is that bonsai tree. That's where it ended up. You can't hardly tell what it is in the middle of all that stuff in there. This is a neat tank. It's kind of neat. It's got a lot of good views to it. I really like the side view even. And I'll sit and look at it a lot. It's up in the bedroom, so it doesn't get as much attention as a lot of the tanks. But this is one that I've pretty much been able to let go and give almost no maintenance to. It just gets water changes, and I pull out some plants and throw them away every now and then. And that's about it. All right, so now we're going to move on downstairs, and we're going to start with a Speck 16-gallon. This is another one that I set up fairly recently, and then I redid, I think just a month or two ago. And I'm really liking the new setup. I like it so much better now with the big piece of wood and all the extra plants and stuff like this. It's still got a little bit of an algae problem. It's got blackbeard algae and some stuff like that. But man, the water in this is now crystal clear. And I've added some fish to it. I've added some fish that I've never kept before, and I've become really fascinated with. And they're called half-beaks. And they're like, I don't know, they're kind of like having a miniature arowana, or maybe a miniature gar would be maybe a better example of what they are. And they mainly stay to the surface. They're a little feisty with each other. There's one that kind of always stays to the middle, I think because that just ended up being his territory. But they don't fight so much that it seems like it's a bad deal for them. They all seem to kind of get along. There's 3 of them now. I started off with about 4 of them, but I ended up losing one. They're kind of hard to photograph too because of that stupid mesh over the top. And overall, that mesh doesn't bother me a whole lot, but because these guys stay at the surface, it's been a little frustrating, like trying to get a good picture. Plus, this guy's so white that he's typically overexposed every time I try to get a good shot of him. Probably could have pulled that thermometer out for the video. Oh, the other thing is I've got these common snails, but look at this guy. Doesn't he look like he's made out of that like slime that you mix with glitter or something like that? Really interesting for a common pond snail that I didn't ask for, but I don't know. I've kind of enjoyed them. I also have a couple of neurite snails. There's one of them there on the left. I've got that guy, and I've got another one with the zebra stripes. And I'm just hoping that they'll help out a little bit. Okay, so moving on to the face tank. The face tank that you almost can't see the face in because I've let some plants grow up, and it's kind of gotten right in front of where the face is. But I may trim those back and do something else with it. For now, I'll just kind of let it go. The shrimp really, really seem to like hanging out on top of it, and it sort of gives a somewhat of a lid, somewhat of a top to this tank. This is a tank that really gave me a lot of trouble right after I set it up. It had a lot of problems with algae and stuff, and then it just all went away. I mean, like in the course of a couple of weeks, it just disappeared. A lot of times when you look at it, you'll say, wow, there's really nothing in there. But then when you look closer, you'll see that there's all kinds of shrimp, and then you throw some food in, and all the fish come out. There's a whole bunch of celestial danios in there, as well as this little species of loach, this little tiny loach. There's about 3 of those in there too, and it's really fun and active, especially from a distance. It's also got this little Flooville nano light on top, which is does a great job. You can program it to ramp up and then ramp back down, and I've got it sort of in sync with all the other lights in my living room that we're about to talk about in a second. But it grows plants really well, and I don't know, it's been a lot of fun. I really like having those options with the tank. It's one of my favorites. It's great to have right there in the living room. Moving on to the big tank. This big tank has been a real pleasure. It's a lot of fun to keep. I have added, I don't know if you watched my last, Aqua Shopper Gone Wild video or whatever. I bought a new Kessel light and I've added it. You can see that it's a bit brighter. It's at least probably twice as bright down in the middle of the tank as it is on the sides with those other lights. And I eventually will replace all 3 lights with those bigger lights. I like it. I think it's neat. The plants have been doing okay, but I want them to grow even more. All the fish that are in there seem to be getting along and doing okay. Snapple, that orange guy there, is he's a blood parrot, and he's been sort of the tank boss, I guess, so far. He's picked on a few of the others who kind of chase him around and stuff. I got Goofus and Doofus that were donated to me by one of my viewers. If you look at the Billy Hill Fish Room, that's where they came from. They're doing really good. They hold their own against old Snapple there. Also hiding under that log somewhere is Mr. Tubes, who refused to come out for the video. More and more I see him right after the lights go out. I'll see his little, his light, he's got a light-colored belly, and I'll see it swimming all around the tank, and I'll kind of go over and observe him a little bit and throw in some extra food at nighttime. But yeah, he wouldn't come out for the video. I guess he just wasn't into it today. One nice thing I found after I shot this video is that it looks like dude is guarding some eggs. Yeah, there's definitely some little eggs down there in that log. So the odds of them breeding in here, like having it successfully raising some fry in here, are pretty low, probably with all the other fish, some predatory fish in there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Moving on, we've got the 27-gallon cube. This is another tank that, man, I set it up a long time ago as one of my earlier videos for, tank setups. It's set up a lot like the 56-gallon upstairs. I was still doing basically the same techniques that I used for that. It is way overgrown. It's another one that I just I let go. I don't do much more than water changes in this. It's sort of my farm. I grow out the plants in here, and whenever I start a new aquascape, I give it a big trim and I move all the plants over to other tanks. So it doesn't always look perfect or really aquascaped or much more than just a whole lot of plants. I did add the light that I took off of the big tank to add that bigger light. I took that smaller light over and I moved it onto this tank, and I've plugged it in so they're all synced up together. So now they match in the color and the light intensity, and they turn on and off together. It's pretty neat. If you look real deep inside this tank, there's all kinds of cool little guys. This is a red long-fin bristlenose pleco that used to be in the 16-gallon tank. And this is a really cool yellow bristlenose pleco. I don't know, maybe lemon drop. I can't remember what they call it. But I think it's a really pretty color for a bristlenose. But yeah, this tank is another one that I thought about tearing it down several times, so I just can't bring myself to do it. It's just a lot of fun to keep. And now it's cool. They're all tied together, so the lights kind of work the same way. They'll ramp up and they ramp back down the same. And yeah, one less timer to deal with. Gotta love that. And that's it. That's everything. I'd be curious to know which one's your favorite. which one you'd like to know more about, just let me know in the comments down below. So of course it's December, and I'm going to try to do, you know, some big videos for you guys. Probably the next big project I'm going to do is the Flooville Flex. Part of me really wanted to do a Blackwater tank in there. Of course, I talked about maybe putting Cthulhu in there and doing a Cthulhu tank. Haven't completely decided on that. I mean, I know I've got all this stuff to do a Blackwater tank, but I don't know if I want to do it there or do it in another one that's coming. That's right, I do have a surprise tank coming. It's well, it's not too big of a surprise. I'm doing a Serene Current USA tank. It's the same one that I filmed at the Aquatic Experience. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to check it out. I'm getting one of those. I'm not sure when it's going to arrive. Hopefully it'll arrive sometime soon. If it arrives before the end of the month, you'll see a video on it there. Of course, you know, whenever it comes, you'll see it. And I'm planning on replacing this one with that tank and maybe another tank, maybe like two tanks next to each other. So another tank I saw at the Aquatic Experience, or tanks I saw at the Aquatic Experience, with some stuff from Flooville. And I have no idea if those are going to be available to the public anytime soon. So I've kind of got some space in my home mapped out and ready for those when they come. It'd be really sweet if all those tanks could arrive at the same time, and I could take all the plants that I've got out of here and just kind of transfer them into some other things. If you guys remember the zombie head tank, I'm actually going to build that out and give it to a friend of mine whose daughter really likes zombies and wants a fish tank. So we're going to put that up in her room. And that might be a thing where I just kind of set it up and film it here, and then I end up taking it, because the town, it's like, in the next town, it's like 30 minutes away. With the Flex, I've really been on the fence. Like, I wanted to do a Cthulhu tank, have Cthulhu and kind of a Blackwater tank and do some stuff, but then I thought, you know, if I'm going to do a Blackwater tank, I make it look real natural and like a biotope almost, and, you know, maybe just this once that wouldn't be appropriate to stick an ornament in there. So I might have to save Cthulhu for something else. I've got some creepy stuff in mind for him anyway. The other thing I wondered is what exactly I wanted to do with the Flex, because in the back of my head I was like, oh man, I could probably make that into a vivarium or paludarium, kind of enclosed paludarium or something like that. I thought that would be really neat. I also would like to mod the lid. The light that it comes with is okay for a lot of plants, and I've seen some people grow pretty decent plant growth inside with that light. But I'd really like to just cut a hole in it and put a bigger light in there or something like that, and really kind of mod it out and do something neat with it that way. But to say I'm undecided for what to do with that tank is that's an understatement and a half. But I'll be taking a closer look at it over the next week or so, and we'll know very soon. Maybe by next weekend. Maybe, if I can get it done. We might know by next weekend what it's going to be. I have a feeling it's going to be a Blackwater tank. I think I'm going to just go ahead and do it. If nothing else, it'll be a good trial run before I do the other tank. I did order a bunch of stuff. I've already filmed the unboxing and stuff for it. And I've got more than enough to do 2 tanks, at least 2 tanks with that stuff. So maybe it'll be a trial run Blackwater tank with a mod for a light. See, I won't need a lot of light if I do a Blackwater tank. Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm so undecided. Okay, you guys are gonna have to help me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Now it's December, and I usually try to do some bigger things in December for, you know, the ad revenue. I mean, for my audience. So I've got that to do also. So there's lots of tanks to build. So that's something to look forward to. But while we wait, I think that particular tank, I even experimented, you know, or is that moody enough for you?